Are we live? I think we are, right? All right, welcome back to another hour. Yep, I know it. We're running late. So nobody hit me on the comments section. There's a few good reasons for why we're running behind a little bit, and it was purposeful. I apologize. I typically want to be here at 8 o'clock, but there's so much stuff going on right now in the world. Seems like evil's just got us sort of bent over a barrel pretty bad. We continue to see a whole lot of just terrible, tragic videos coming out of Israel, and of course, uh, the IDF under the leadership of course, the Israeli leadership has already started to bomb the heck out of Hamas, and so the Gaza Strip is getting leveled. And of course, you're starting to see that thing that somehow doesn't apply to the Jewish people, and as tragic and as it may be is and it is that a lot of people in the Gaza Strip are just being leveled. They've been warned to get out, folks. Uh, Netanyahu said, "Yep, at X amount of hours to get out and or face the wrath," because Israel is now just looks like turning Gaza into a parking lot, and so there's a lot of ramifications that's coming off of that, and part of why I was late. I want you to know, not as an accolade or anything, but today in San Antonio, Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Roy Garcia was. I don't want to call it a visual, but it was a day of prayer, and I put that up on my Facebook page. It's a video. I think they were ending right as I left. And so I was dashing back, trying to get back here to start at 8 o'clock. And as it would have it in San Antonio, if you're listening to me from the San Antonio area, we have a little mist. And everybody knows that nobody can drive in San Antonio. And when it rains even a little bit. And so that little rain, makes it really slick. So, uh, I feel like if anybody is from the 80s, Generation X, we used to have a game called Frogger, and you would leap and try to miss cars. It's sort of, I'm looking at Linda Ruski back here, my trusty technician here. um, she's like, hurry back. And I'm like, I'm dodging cars. So we're playing it safe anyway. Nonetheless, I want to thank the good Lord for all of you listening in tonight. It's another wonderful day here as we are alive and kicking. Not such a great day or the last 48 hours plus for the Middle East out there, especially with Israel and everything that's happened. Looks like the numbers are just going to keep going up, and we're talking 1,000 plus. And if some of you are looking uh, for information, I would tell you that, and I used to not do this, but Twitter seems to be the place to be right now. Facebook is literally just, dumbing down videos, whatever you want to call it, throttling down, whatever the words are. Is that the right words? What is it? Throttling down? Yeah, I said it right. And or they're ghosting me. What's the other word where they just don't let me get enough people? Anyway, somebody put in the comment section. You all know what I mean. Bottom line is Twitter, for whatever it's worth, and I'm not saying I'm a diehard Elon Musk fan, but certainly that place has been wide open for posting truth and just about anything without being censored. So today, as I'm looking through Twitter, there's just tons of videos that you're not going to see. And that's the point here, that you're not going to see a lot of these videos on the mainstream media. MSM. Somebody said MSM, isn't that like MSNBC? No, it's mainstream media. And somebody said, there's no way the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, didn't know that this was coming, and or they got caught off guard. But some things to know for sure is, guys in gliders, these parasail things dropped into what was like a celebration rave. Remember, this was a Jewish celebration day, and they took a lot of girls, women, They have a lot of hostages right now, and it just the whole thing just looks it's just terrible. That's all there is to it. Doesn't matter what it looks like right now. Is It's just terrible. Lots of hostages, lots of dead people on both sides. Gaza looks like it's going to be turned into a parking lot. I'm not sure when the Israelis stop bombing the crap out of it, and but I can understand why. There was a news anchor lady today, and this is why I felt compelled to go into San Antonio today and pray with it's a Messianic Jewish synagogue there in San Antonio, Baruch Hashem. And I've been there before there, and I just felt compelled to go pray with them, as what I would ask everybody to do the same. Right now, prayers they work, folks. So we're going to get political here today and talk a little bit about this and that, but I wanted to at least start off with the world right now in and around Israel is just it's chaos. It's and I wanted to show you real quick here. Somebody said, "Well, look, it should be contained to just the what's happening out there in Israel." And but the realities is this thing starting to already blow up. If you look at Lindsey Graham, the senator out of I think South or North Carolina, I'm not sure. Can you look that up? What is it, North or South Carolina? One of those. Doesn't matter. He's mega rhino. He's already talking about how we just need to start going after even Iran, even into Iran, and deal with the mullahs out there. And level heads have to prevail in all this. And I'm 100% with the Jewish people defending their country. They need to. They were attacked. It's like a 9/11 multiplied times, however, because they're not 367 million people. They're a lot smaller country. So when they suffer even 1,500 people, that is a big deal. And heck, one person is a big deal. But my point being is, I'm just kind of drawing some comparisons, albeit maybe horrible. But all that said, um, this is like Yom Kippur or 9/11. It's just and it's terrible. So, but we're starting to see this drum roll of the neocons are out, like Lindsey Graham telling everybody that we literally ought to be attacking Iran and anybody else. And this sort of popped up here. I'm gonna share this with you just so we can look at it. But South Carolina. Okay, I've been corrected. Not North Carolina, but South Carolina. So I want to share this screen here real quick with you so you can see this. All of a sudden, here we go. So this is the Chechen Republic to join war in support of Hamas. And when I see this, and then I see Lindsey Graham, Gramnesty, right? We call him Gramnesty because he's like Tony Gonzalez. They're pro amnesty. When you see this, then you start to realize, okay, um, why would the Chechen Republic want to be in on this with Hamas? And this guy right here he's in tight with Russia, and so I'm kind of curious to see what the Russians and Putin will do. But this is has the makings of World War III if we're not careful. And the worst part about it is we have no leadership right now. And by that, I mean, everybody who can see, President Joe Biden, something's wrong with him. Listen, I don't know if it's dementia. I don't know if it's Alzheimer's early on. I'm not a doctor, folks. All I can tell you is I'm a common sense guy. When and if you're speaking like he does and he can't find the door, something's wrong. And so we're rudderless right now. And if you think Kamala is going to save the day, yeah, Linda's like, not going to happen. So we've got issues here. I still am praying against a prediction that I think that the next target is going to be the Chinese taking over Taiwan. Think about it. So we're between Ukraine and Russia, where we've been watching this whole scenario for a year now, whatever it is. And now we have Hamas has attacked the Jewish southern communities, just Israel in general, but I'm drawing the geographical place there. And you start to ask yourself, okay, this is this to draw attention away? Because and why would Hamas all of a sudden? You have to start asking these questions. And again, I'm questioning the timing, because now if you look at this, with the Chechen Republican says wants to maybe throw in with Hamas, and then you got Lindsey Grahamnesty talking about going after the Iranians, and we have ourselves the possibility of a, just a full scale blown World War III, and nobody wants that. I mean, obviously nobody wants that, but somehow we've got all kinds of neocons already popping out talking about how we should just get after it, you see. And the worst part, if you're a conservative, right now let's get into the ideological aspects of this for everybody who's interesting, right, or interested in. Okay, so what does this all mean? And in terms of, let's just go there for a second, for Democrats and Republicans. Well, we're kind of screwed. So if you're a conservative and you were banking on Tony Gonzalez here in Congressional District 23, and I'm just using him as an example. Let's go to Steve Allison. He's a state representative. Let's go to Ryan Guillen. It's another state representative. But let's go to Dan Crenshaw. Let's go all these people here. I've heard zero out of these people. Sure, everybody's condemned the attacks. Okay, I got that. And we should, everybody should. But what's the plan now? You see, because uh and everybody's really beating up on Matt Gaetz right now, because guess what? He led seven others, a total of 8 Republicans and the Democrats, to get rid of McCarthy. That still should have happened. So the timing on that, as horrible as it may be, does not stop Congress from doing the things they want to do. In fact, McCarthy, exited stage left, but somehow is trying to get back in on stage right. And by that, I mean, if you didn't know, he was on Fox News saying that, hey, given the circumstances, I should be back in, you see. And of course, Matt Gaetz, I saw Twitter say, no, not no, but hell no. And I don't think we need McCarthy back, folks. I mean, that's my point here is, but also that the Republican Party is in shambles, but it's not our fault. Let's get that cleared out right now. Whatever is happening in the Republican Party is not Matt Gaetz' fault. Okay, I said it. It's not. It's the elected Republican who promised you to secure the border, build a wall, maybe lower your taxes, cut spending. Okay, but instead went to Congress and got rich. And that's the point here is, tonight I want to talk about what happened to the Republicans we elected, who in the primary and in the November elections to get elected said everything we wanted to hear. Everything we wanted to hear. And this brings us to what I always say about a lot of patriots, like a guy like Frank Lopez, who felt the need to run as an independent last year against Tony Gonzalez for a lot of different reasons, but to give you an option, and to give you an option, but because people are still about left and right, which means Democrat and Republican, because he wasn't a Republican, you didn't vote for him. So you suffer the consequences with a guy like Tony Gonzalez. So then you look at me and you go, wait, so really you want us to not vote? You don't. When I say don't vote for Tony, a Republican, does not mean don't go vote for the Democrat. And because here's what's happening even at the presidential level. I don't know if you knew this, but 2 or 3 days ago, guess who announced that he's running as an independent? None other than RFK Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr. is running as an independent. Now we'll talk a little bit later about does that impact Biden? Does that impact Trump? And I've got a lot to say about that, but we'll talk talk about that in a minute. The point here about left and right, or Democrats and Republican, is the fact that at the state level, if you live in Texas and you're listening to me, we have awoken, bad word. We have awakened to the realization that 60 Republicans are not really Republicans. And a lot of you, for the longest time, would beat up on a guy like Dan Crenshaw. I, for one, even in the last campaign for the state Senate, was beating up on a guy like Andrew Murr. I went to Junction, Texas, where he's from, and in a forum where he was at, even though I wasn't running against him, my good friend Wes Verdell, who is now running against Andrew Murr for a second time. Whenever we're at those forums, I would look at Andrew Murr and then reference a guy named Steve Allison down here in San Antonio and say things like, why would you vote for these people again? Because in the 87th legislative session, or the one before, not this one, whether that's 86 or 87, I forget. In the last legislative session in the state of Texas, Steve Allison and Andrew Murr are the ones that reduced the felony penalties from the voting bill that finally made it through the legislative body. And nobody batted an eye. And guess what that did? It simply weakened the entire bill, and voter integrity really means nothing in that bill. You see? Now, I had Frank Lopez here this past Friday or Saturday. What was it? I don't know, Saturday. I think it was. Anyway, he was a guest right here. He sat next to me. And by the way, for if you just joined me, we're having a conversation about, it's not our fault the Republican Party is a mess. In fact, it's a good thing that it's discombobulated, because people are realizing that elected Republicans are anything but Republicans. And now you have Israel, you have Ukraine and Russia. You're now looking at Lindsey Grahamnesty and a whole bunch of neocons wanting to start this huge, bigger war about going into Iran and all these different places. And guess what? You as the constituent start to ask yourself, what the hell did I vote for? Exactly. What were you thinking when you voted for Tony Gonzalez? I want to know what the people, South Carolina, is that where they're from? What the hell were y'all thinking voting for Lindsey Grahamnesty? And I remember friends in the Republican women's group telling me, Raul, we got to keep John Cornyn. And I swallowed hard. I said, okay, maybe I'm the only one who can't see how good John Cornyn is. Linda Ruski just gave me that. I can't do that too much, because what happens is Tony Gonzalez will grab that. If I ever ran again for Congress, that facial expression, and he'll splatter it up on a mailer, and then he'll put a scar face right here. Remember that? Okay, I've diverted. I'm sorry. Back to, you will have awakened in Texas to 60 Republicans. Briscoe Kane is another one. I don't know why I've taken it really personal with Briscoe. Maybe because when I met the man, I liked him, and I thought he was being honest when he said, I'm a conservative, Raul. I'm like, I really believe you, Briscoe. Dork boy voted to impeach Ken Paxton, who, by the way, I met, and as imperfect as everybody is, I thought he was doing the right things. So back to, how are we going to solve the world's problems, even just here in America, right? How do we make the right decisions if we keep voting the wrong people in? And here's the thing. Let's go back to Andrew Murr and Steve Allison out of San Antonio. Andrew Murr, by the way, is Medina County all the way to Junction. I think up in Brady, McCullough, somewhere up there. Wes Verdell is running against this man, and Steve Allison is just down the road. I was asking stupid questions, Linda. Like, why did y'all vote for these people if they watered down your bills? You know, I mean, I know I'm not. I mean, I have this running joke. I used to, and by the way, I love my Del Rio peeps. If you're listening, God bless you. Thank you for doing that. But I used to. I woke up one day and realized, in some places I was the smartest guy in the room, which is When I tell you I'm from Del Rio, and back when I was growing up, our education system wasn't 100% on the border. If I'm calling you stupid, wow. I mean, you've hit rock bottom because the guy from Del Rio is doing that. You understand that? Now, that said, to all my peeps in Del Rio, turns out we're smart people and better than most people. I said that, and I'm kissing some butt here, but that's okay. All right. What's the point here for all of you listening? Going, where's he going with this crap? We're wondering what Republicans are going to do when all we did was we elected a bunch of puppets. That's all that's happened here. Why did we reelect Andrew Murr? You had West Verdell as an option 2 years ago or a year ago now. The election is going to be in March, and so to make it a 2-year term. Why didn't you get rid of Murr the moron? And somebody tell him I said that because I've had enough of being nice. And Steve Allison, the guy's running around telling you how wonderful he is. By the way, they got booed. If you didn't know this, he was with the other Hispanic dude that won in the middle of Democrat world. Well, they're the ones who voted to impeach Ken Paxton. And I'm in the details here, but if I pull it back a little bit, what's the point here? Who in the hell voted for Lindsey Graham? And how many of you got tricked into voting for John Cornyn again? Why? And then you want to solve the border with these people? You're not going to be able to. I mean, so the first thing I would say, because Raul, you need to stop telling you what's the solution. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to God and ask for a lot of forgiveness because you've taken God out of this country. And the reason that flag back there stands proud and tall and a lot of people want to come here and live under it is because God blessed it. You see, we're not worshiping anybody but God. You've got to get on board with realizing, and you better start teaching your kids, because if I played you some of the videos of some of these young morons running around thinking that what Hamas did was justified, geez. Oh, there it is. That's one of my good friends does that quite a bit. Bottom line is, you're all wondering, how do we solve these problems? You're going to have to talk to God. That's all there is to it. You're going to have to pray. You're going to have to pray for forgiveness. And by the way, I'm not preaching to you. All I'm going to tell you is that for too long we've taken God out of the equation, and this is the kind of crap we get. We get a Joe Biden who doesn't even know where he's at. You see, you get a liar like Tony Gonzalez who to this day hasn't met with his constituents. Here's the thing, and not just him. We're going to poke at him and everybody else because he's in our district. Are you going to vote for Andrew Murr again? Hey, my Bexar County peeps, are you going to vote for Steve Allison again? And I'm not just picking on him. Dan Crenshaw out in Houston. I mean, because they have so much money and they can finagle you and hoodwink you in the March primaries, they can then turn around and run guys down like myself and Frank and a good friend of mine like Bianca Gracia out in Houston as well. Anybody who runs as a real patriot, a Christian conservative, fighting for America, you want to say it, that's fine too. MAGA, America first, whatever the words are, a constitutionalist, that doesn't make you a puppet. If you need to vote for those folks, because right now the whole world is in shock that we have a total mess on the border. Let me tell you the biggest other concern, as we've been poking at Murr and Steve Allison, it just as an example. If you live out in East Texas, what are you going to do with Dade Phelan? Are y'all, let me ask Collin County out there, that's home of Ken Paxton, I think is what that's out there. All those in Dade Phelan's county and where he represents, are you going to vote for this guy again? He just shafted every priority just about, right? And there's only like 8 folks. Life is simple in the Republican Party of Texas. They meet quarterly. Toward the end, they take like their top 10, top 8, and they send it over to the legislative body and go, please, can you make this happen? First of all, we shouldn't say please anymore. You need to just tell people to do, but you know what? They won't, right? So Dade Phelan, not too long ago, I think yesterday was, we've passed every Republican priority bill. Well, Wrong. They're Dade Phelan's priority bills, not the Republican Party of Texas, the basis bills. You know how long it took to get constitutional carry? It's not really constitutional carry; it's more like permitless. But let's call it a win anyway. It took almost 2 to 3 sessions. It'd been on the ballot forever and ever and ever, and finally they tossed us a morsel of here, have some of this. And by the way, that's happening now. I'm going to get back to the federal level, but at the state level, you're starting to see even guys like Briscoe Kane and some of these yahoos that voted to impeach, even Ellen Troxler. I hope you're listening to me. If you voted for impeachment, I hope somebody runs against you and gets you out of there. I don't care if anywhere in Senate District 24 you don't like me because I just said that. But the bottom line is, it is time to call a spade because this is why the Republican Party isn't growing. Now I'm going to get into the Latino Hispanic piece. Man alive, look out. I have to be careful here because some of you will be painting me some kind of identity politics, but I'm not. It is the Republican Party made up of Greg Abbott who goes down into Brownsville and talks about how wonderful, and here we go, conservative the Latino community is. Well, no crap, dude. We know that. But you ask yourself, why are we not? Did I just say we, right? I'm Hispanic. Why are we not part of the Republican Party? Because we don't trust you. And then, most important, when you get a guy like me, Frank Lopez, by the way, here are the credentials: retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, self made businessman after the fact. All right. More credentials than most people, common sense out the wazoo. Can I say I'm kind of pretty? Can I go there? Yeah, okay. I got the go green light for that. Frank Lopez, 30-year Border Patrol, knows more about the border than actually just about anybody. You've seen him. He's got 45,000 followers, but the Republican Party doesn't want that guy or this guy. And you wonder why nobody. Now you can go Black America, Hispanic, Asian America. Why does the Republican Party tend not get bigger? Because it's made up of a bunch of yahoos with a lot of money who have convinced everybody that a guy like Tony Gonzalez is the guy, like Dan Crenshaw is the guy, Steve Allison is the guy. You know how hoodwinked they just literally just convinced you and made fools of a lot of people. They took a guy named Ryan Guillen, who for 20 years was a Democrat, and then said, oh, he wants to come over to the Republican Party. Folks, power is just immersing itself over to save itself. There's a guy out there. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I hope you're not watching this video because I forgot his name, but he's a retired, I think, Navy captain. Wonderful guy. I'm going to remember it later. Look it up. Ran against Ryan Guillen in 2022. Monserrati. Anyway, this guy had the credentials. He's a conservative, a bona fide Republican, a retired military with the know-how to solve issues because he's been doing it for 30 years in his capacity as a retired, or as a military man and then an officer to boot, which is good. And they convinced that whole area that the Reformed Democrat was the guy that needed to be the Republican primary winner so he can go on to November and keep his seat. You know who did that? Abbott did that. Atascosa County, God, you guys need to really wake up. Love you guys. I love you guys. But who convinced you that Ryan Guillen is the guy? Who? And I'm not just picking on Atascosa County, as that's not what we're doing here. I'm drawing on examples that I know of, like Ryan Guillen, a full-blown Democrat, has you convinced now that he's a Republican. And guess what he did? He killed bills in the chairmanship position that he had. And you're surprised? So now let's go back to Israel and all the things that are happening across the world. McCarthy yesterday was talking about all the things that they should be doing. And they should be doing this against Biden and doing this against Biden and blah, 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 blah. You know what I kept thinking while he was doing in this video? You have the Republican-led Congress has only one tool in its arsenal to stop any of the crap that's being brought to us by Joe Biden, and that's the power of the purse. And you know what that guy did? He sold out. He sold out. All he did was he turned around and he approved the CR for 45 days, because in 45 days, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. Everybody gets all happy about Thanksgiving and let's just get on with it. And all of a sudden, you pass this humongous $7 trillion. That's really what's on the table. $7 trillion, $2 trillion over on the deficit. And but this guy, McCarthy, as he's been booted out, he's on Fox News telling the world how wonderful the ideas he has. I just I had to just shut it off. I mean, I don't know why it was even. Oh, it was on Twitter. Twitter had a McCarthy, and people were doing what I'm doing now, just making fun of him. I'm like, look, as the Speaker of the House, the one tool you had, you have no idea how to use it. Instead, you gave more money to Ukraine, because that's really what's happening here. It's all about Ukraine, and now we have this tragedy, this absolute tragedy that's happened in Israel, and we, the base, conservatives, Christians. You notice how I didn't say Republicans right off the top, but let's just go there for a second. Republicans, people who bona fide believe in the planks of the Republican Party. What do we do about this? Hmm? For CD23, where is your congressman? Where? He's out there asking you to go ahead and approve Scalise as the new. Scalise is just as bad, if not worse, than McCarthy. The two are inseparable. Paul Ryan, John Boehner, they're all part of the crowd that believes in starting wars and making money off of the industrial complex, the military industrial complex. So look, I believe in a strong military industrial complex, but you can't go start wars in the process. I mean, we're we're at the brink of sending people to Ukraine. I think Britain is already doing that. But let's pull it back to where we started here. It is not your fault that the Republican Party is where it is, because for too long, big money has convinced you, right? That Tony Gonzalez, that Steve Allison, that Andrew Murr, that they're the people who ought to lead at the federal and at the Texas legislative levels. And guess what? We believe them. I almost feel like George Bush when he met with Putin. Well, I looked the man in the eye and I saw deep into his soul. I'm like, listen, I'm not, I'm not sure what that means, other than I can spot a fake a mile away. Andrew Murr is a fake. Steve Allison is a fake. Okay, uh, pick Dan Crenshaw out there. They're all fakes. There's quite a few good patriots. I like Matt Gaetz. I still very much like Donald Trump. I'm not sure what's happening on some of the things, why he's doing some things, but as we go down this road, we'll know. And by the way, I would invite you to keep looking at DeSantis and anybody else out there. And because guess what? We need to start really looking at who is going to lead this country at the president level, at the congressional level, at the senator level. By the way, Ted Cruz is wonderful. Still very much appreciate him quite a bit. He's been out there fighting from day one. Somebody said, well, he's just saying the things you want to hear. Listen, he's been doing the things I want him to do. But John Cornyn all of a sudden came to life, like in the last 6 months after he got booed at the state convention. So to solve world hunger, if I can just use that, the problems of the world, like the things that are happening in Ukraine, we need people who are going to tell the truth about Ukraine. Like, for instance, I would tell you that Ukraine has zero national vital interests. The southern border is more important than the 120 trillion or billion dollars. I think we're at 250 billion dollars now that got sent to Ukraine. And we're funding pensions and a great nightlife, because every time I see a video, there's a bunch of girls and guys dancing, having a great time. I'm not even sure. Does that happen in the Uvalde Estates? I mean, I know y'all throw down with the fajitas. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we do too out here. But they look like they're like living off the beach life or something. Does not look like a war-torn country. In fact, I haven't really seen any video lately. When's the last time you saw anything like what we saw from Israel? I haven't seen anything. Have you? Please put it in the comments. I want you to leave it in the comments and tell me and show me video from Ukraine. And I'm not drawing on conspiracy. I'm just wondering. It's amazing what the mainstream media is pushing, because it's doing the same thing now to convince you that in March we need certain people. You know how many times you've seen Tony Gonzalez on Fox News? I mean, like the guy's butt stuck to the microphone there. McCarthy all of a sudden is in there too. Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, like think about it. There's 400 congressmen or something like that. There's 218, 20 Republicans, and Tony Gonzalez is the one you want on Fox News. I was going to say something really dumb, but what about the guy from Alaska? Don't they have a representative in Alaska? Why isn't he on Fox News? Oh, because Tony Gonzalez has 800 miles of the border. That's why. And yet, they're not telling you the truth. If you didn't catch Frank Lopez's video from, this past, was it yesterday? Just I forget what day we are. This is Tuesday. You need to really go look at it because, and I'm going to see if I can pop it up here, but you really need to go see that Frank has been telling you that Tony Gonzalez had an office at the Endeavor's facilities. You see? And why is that important? Because the Endeavor's facilities is, guess what? The NGO, one of the many NGOs that are moving people in and out. And they're not migrants, folks. I don't care what you tell me. If you cross that river, you're an illegal alien. Mayorkas does not reserve the right under any policy he creates to tell you that he's now legit. And yet, guess what? We're allowing them come through because we're not saying or doing anything. Guess what? Tony Gonzalez isn't going to say that on Fox News. He's not. Where's Ryan Guillen? Where's Eddie Morales? Eddie Morales is the guy down from Eagle Pass. You know, he's been like this quiet. Catherine Parker, I think, is that the one who ran against him. I encourage you to do it again. Go run against this moron here because he sits there and doesn't say anything. Eagle Pass is just being violated like Del Rio was 2 years ago, except you don't have Haitians underneath the bridge. What you have is thousands and thousands of illegal aliens making your communities completely unsafe. And yet Eagle Pass is going to vote for Eddie Morales again. Because why? Yeah, so somebody's screaming at the thing saying, oh, everything's rigged. And I'm like, listen, everything can't be rigged, but because you can't go off that, you got to go fight for to win these elections. And so what's the overall point here is we have a mess right now across the globe, and everybody looks to America to solve these problems. Does the president look like he's in the right state of mind? I'm getting a no look from that technician over here. Does Congress look like it's going to get its act together? Even when they pick a different speaker. By the way, I still think McCarthy had to go. Nobody can predict that this was going to happen in Israel. And by the way, Congress can still act. Everybody's just pretending to tell you that they can't because they want to get McCarthy back in. I say hell no to McCarthy. Let's get on with a new speaker. Jim Jordan, if everybody's good with that, I'd personally like to see Matt Gaetz or even Chip Roy, but they're going to make that decision up there and go from there. I want to share. Let me see if we can get him. Let me show you. Where are you? And I'm going to move this a little bit closer because I want you to see. Where are you? There it is. I'm going to pause it here. And I'm going to share this screen because I want you to see real quick. This is, well, that's the wrong one. Let me go here. Let me put this guy here. And I'm going to take you to my Facebook account and show you Frank Lopez, the border patriot. This is Frank right here.
The day before I did.
And I'm pausing it right here. And I don't mean to cut him off with his mouth like that, but there it is better. Look at where he's standing. He's in Desavala, and you know, Tony moved his office, right? But he left sign. Yo, Tony, you forgot to tell Texas Department of Transportation to kill the sign. If you go to this location, and I encourage you to go see the U.S. Border Patriot, This is about a 5 minute video, maybe, I think. Let me see how long. Oh, 14 and a half minutes. Okay. But the first six or seven, Frank's telling you that our congressman in Congressional District 23 office was housed in the endeavors, because a lot of people don't believe this. And why am I bringing this up? Because if I can get my thing here, there we go. Because it makes my point about how are we going to solve Texas problems with 60 Republicans who really are anything but that. And they keep lying to you, and you keep feeding off of that. And I said this before. I'm gonna say it one more time for clarity. I'm not looking to get into a battle with any group. Certainly not the Farm Bureau. Not what I'm asking is, how does the Farm Bureau how does the Farm Bureau, who's already endorsed Tony Gonzalez and a lot of, how is it that you still endorse this guy when he's been censured by the Republican Party? Now, let's go there for a second. The Farm Bureau is the Farm Bureau, so they can, great. Okay, moving on. I got it. But what about the Republican women's groups? You only have Republican in the title. So that's the $1 million question for me. And I'm gonna go down there to the Alamo Republican Women's Group down there, and feel free, you can call me. I'll bring you on my show. Somebody explain to me how you're gonna endorse Tony Gonzalez in the next March primary. Because if that's the case, you've lost all, what's the right word? Credentials? Not credentials is not the right word. It'll come to me. But you've lost every right to say you're a Republican anything. You see, because I didn't censure him. Okay, I didn't censure him. And oh, but you don't like me talking about Tony Gonzalez. Okay, let me step aside for a second. How do you keep voting and endorsing Steve Allison? How? He lowered the penalties from felonies to misdemeanors, meaning he watered the voter bill to absolutely nothing. Right now, we have zero voter integrity. You know, you can still mail in ballots and do whatever crap you want, and yet you're going to vote for him again? How does that happen? Mandrew Murr, people out in Junction and all their family members. It doesn't matter. You at some point you're going to have to put the country above everything else, or God is going to turn his back away from us, and all hell's going to break loose even more. And so those are the questions. Got it. The Farm Bureau, and I've got friends there. We're just having the comment. I could say anything else. Let's talk about other PACs, like for instance, Texas lawsuit reform. See, them I can understand, folks, because they don't care about the ideological conservative or liberal or anything in between. What they want is their business to be taken care of. Here's the thing. It's America. They can do that. Texas lawsuit reform has more money than you. That's not your fault either, but they have more money than we do, and they can buy their puppets. We can then expose them. We can tell you these guys are not real conservatives, and then you can decide whether you want to be put over a barrel and decide when all hell breaks loose in places like impeaching Ken Paxton, which you don't like because Ken Paxton has a high favorability rating right now. Then you can ask yourself, okay, why did I vote? Why did I vote for Murr? And why did I vote for Steve Allison? Oh, because the Texas lawsuit reform gave them enough money to lie to you and convince you on these mailers and commercials that they're the people you need to vote for. Is that it? Really? Because here's the thing. In the primaries, I think it's something like less than 10% of the voters really go in to vote. Like, for instance, District 23, as an example, again, has about 1 million voters. You know how many people show up in the primaries? 35 to 40,000. That's it. And half of those people is what they call like the really hardcore Republicans. They're going to be there every 2 years or every 4 years. They're going to vote. The other half, so they say, let's say you have 40,000 voters in the primaries. 20,000 are the hardcore. They're going to be there all the time. Did we really hoodwink all those? They're not. These people are not. They're not without aptitude. They know what they're doing, but it's the Texas lawsuit reform giving a lot of money to convince you that Murr, Allison, and anybody else they give money to, they're your heroes. And yet they're the ones that impeached Ken Paxton. Tony Gonzalez, let's go there for a second. By the way, the point there was Texas lawsuit reform can do that. You see? But if you have Republican women's group and you have Republican in your name, don't you think you ought to be really pushing real Republicans? Linda's going, I think so. I am too. And we have a slew, like, now let's go back to the identity politics for a second, okay? There's some groups out there called the Texas Latino Conservatives, TLC, and they go around pushing people like Myra Flores and Tony Gonzalez, right? Which we absolutely do not agree with because they're pro amnesty. So so now the Texas Latino conservatives and there's other groups out there. They my mind they escape me right now, but you saw Abbott rushing down to Brownsville saying, "Oh, Latinos are conservative. Latinos are conservatives." I'm coming back full circle. I know I left it for about 15 minutes. I'm coming back here. The point here is that these groups are set up to smoke you, to gaslight you, to convince you that because Myra Fotis is a Hispanic and she's got a great story how she's from Mexico and she won for 4 months was the congressman, but they forgot to tell you she's pro amnesty. Now, if you talk to her, she says, I am not pro amnesty, but you hanging out with people like the Libre Pack. So let me tie it all together. If you're the Farm Bureau and you want to endorse people, have at it. Have at it. What I would ask you to do is put the country above self because we need you to do that. You can no longer endorse Tony Gonzalez. If you are Texas lawsuit reform and you have a lot of money and you don't care about the country, I can understand why you're going to keep endorsing Dade Phelan, Andrew Murr, Steve Allison, you see, and give money to those people because you're in the business of just getting things done. Hey, it's politics, folks. It's governance of some sort. I don't like it, but they have money, you see. If you're Texas Latino conservatives, right, you ought to be stripped of your conservative word because guess what? You're trying to get people who are anything but conservative. Why would Tejanos, okay, for all my Texas brethren, those are Hispanic Texans, right? Why would Tejanos be in agreements with pro amnesty? You see, we're trying to get out from the middle class and into the upper class. We get lower down into the lower. And by the way, this is white, black, Asian America, the Texans. It's everybody. I'm just going to the Hispanics right now. Why would we be for pro amnesty? Why? And the answer is we're not. We're not. So let me keep going. I already addressed Farm Bureau. Got it. Okay. I mean, I can only ask you to put country over self, and somebody's going to wring my neck and just go, bro, I can't believe you. I didn't say you were not pro American. You keep endorsing non-real Republicans. That's the point here. And we wonder why the farmers are affected across what happens in the globe when people that go up to the federal level, they're not really working for you, man. They're not. Texas lawsuit reform, we already said they got a lot of money. Okay, great, fine. But now let's go back to bona fide Republican associated groups like the Republican Women's Group. Why would you keep endorsing a guy like Tony Gonzalez, Ryan Guillen, Steve Allison? Because here's what's going to happen. And this is the overall point tonight. We're in such deep trouble that the base finally woke up to your crap. The one that says, we select all the elected Republicans and these are the people. They don't buy that anymore, folks. This is why Matt Gaetz, because he takes no money from PACs, literally was able to oust the biggest rhino in all of the federal government, and that's McCarthy. Okay, a liar, not a real Republican. You see, and this is why 60 Republicans tried to scare the crap out of a sitting attorney general, aka Ken Paxton, and they lost because what they did was they touched the hot iron of the constituency that's really supports. And now, guess what? Everybody knows who you are, folks. Briscoe Kane, I hope you lose your ass in the primaries. By the way, if she's watching, and I think I'm gonna say this, I think my friend Bianca Gracia is gonna be running against him. At least Michael Berry, I think, announced that yesterday. I will have to look it up. We'll have to call her. Is she on the comments? See if she's blasting me away right now. But these people all have to go. So the fact that the Republican Party is in chaos, One, right now is a good thing because the only people that are going to tell you that's a bad thing is anybody who one doesn't understand what's really happening here. So you'll forgive me when I tell you go research because you have no clue what you're talking about telling me that what I just told you is absolutely goodness. We want right now to get rid of people who aren't who they say they are. You need to get rid of Ryan Guillen. You're going to get rid of Steve Allison. By the way, I'm just local targets, but you can get rid of Dade Phelan all the way across the road. Briscoe Kane's got to go. Tony Gonzalez at the federal level's got to go. Dan Crenshaw's got to go. McCarthy's gone. He's out of the speakers. Talk about the biggest. Oh man, like in 200 years, I think he might be the only speaker that ever got thrown out. Man, talk about leave that on your record. Man, I tell you what, but it's politics. And he suffered the consequences of lying to a Matt Gaetz who really believes that he's there to do this the people's will. If we had all the Matt Gaetz across the world, let me tell you something, America would be in a much, much better position. It just would because we wouldn't have to worry about questioning whether somebody's a puppet of TLR or any other organization that has a lot of money or influenced by Republican this group or Republican that group. You see, and I'm not just throwing down with the Republican women's group. What I'm saying is, by the way, for all the Republican, absolutely love all the ladies that are out there. But I need you to wake up to people like Frida Wright out in the Alamo Republican women's group who convincing you that somehow Tony Gonzalez is the guy. You're putting that group over America, and you need to stop doing that. And I'm not here to mince any words. I'm here to tell you the truth. You don't have to like it, but the reason the world's going to hell in a handbasket is because we don't have an opposition to the left. And that left is made up of mostly Democrats. Okay. And people say, oh, they're all Democrats. Listen, RFK, who is a Democrat, is now running as an independent. You know who did that? My friend Frank Lopez, right here. Look at this guy. This guy right here had enough sense to do something that now RFK Jr. is going to do is run as an independent. And why? Because he knew what I knew 4 years ago when we entered the campaign for Congress back in 2020. I couldn't understand why a lot of people just couldn't see what we were seeing. I was looking at folks saying, these are not real Republicans. What are you talking about? And the first thing out of their mouth, Linda, was, you're too negative. Raul, you're just too damn negative. I'm like, listen, get used to it because my Hispanic Tejano blood is going to boil every time you lie to me and you tell me you're going to do something and you end up in Congress or the legislative body and you don't do the damn things that I told you and I sent you to do. Period. That's it. It's that simple. People are getting tired of being lied to. And while the world is on fire, again, we have no real offense because guess what? We've elected a bunch of people who sold out to the real offense, which is the left over in the Democrat world. And they're leftist folks. They're hardcore leftists. If you don't think there's evil being propelled on this world in this country, man, you're not. You literally got your head in the sand, and that's terrible. Now let's go talk just a little bit about RFK Jr. because we've just got a few minutes. I don't want to go too long. It's already late. In my opinion, RFK Jr. is really going to have an impact on the elections. Everybody says, "Oh, independents don't do anything," but let me tell you something. Let me tell you who the Republican Party has disenfranchised: Hispanics. Okay, you love us because we're conservative. Okay, and some people are going to get upset by what I'm going to tell you. It's not identity politics. I'm just giving you facts. If I was African American, I'd be talking about the American community. I'm Hispanic. I'm telling you what I see because I want the Republican Party, the base, to start voting for people who are actually going to do something for Texas. I didn't say for Tejanos only, or Hispanics or Latinos. That's not me. I'm talking for Texas because as go Texas goes America. Deep breath. There are a lot of people that are disenfranchised by what the Republican Party has done. It's not just Hispanics. It's Black America. Why is Black America not part of they're just as conservative, folks. They're just as conservative. Asian Americans, same thing. Why aren't they part of the Republican tent? Because we have people like McCarthy, Scalise, Dan Crenshaw. I always call her Monica de la Crenshaw, but Monica de la Cruz down. They're all pretending to do this and that. We got to stop allowing these people to wear their mask. pretending they're one thing when they're something else. And Tony Gonzalez, right down the road here, included. For everybody who's watching from across different parts. By the way, we do have a New Zealand two families out there that listen. They email me. Let me just say this. So we talk a lot about Tony Gonzalez because it's the border region. It's 800 miles. You see, and what I want to know is where are the candidates? Who's running against this guy? Okay. Now that's a rhetorical question, as I kind of already know. But do you know who's running against Tony Gonzalez? And for everybody up in Amarillo, my good friend Alex de Anda up there who's listening as well, we got to start asking these people who's running again. Do you know who's running? The the survival of this country does not allow you to just pretend like going to work is going to solve your problems. I get it. I get it. We got bills to pay. The economy sucks. Interest rates are high. If you want to buy a house, gas prices are high. California, you know, $8, almost $8 a gallon gas, and you keep voting for the same morons. I mean, am I asking a stupid question here? I'm from Del Rio. I know I'm not asking a stupid question. In my cohort here, the technician, otherwise known as AKA Linda Ruski, is asking the same question. Why do people do that? And the answer is they've been doing that successfully because they've had a lot of money to convince you that a guy like me is going to wreak havoc in Congress as opposed to Tony, who is going to be all prim and proper. Well, guess what? Tony Gonzalez has bent over and taken it pretty hard for the money. I want to know. We're going to ask this question. We've got researchers. How much money has Tony Gonzalez made? Because they've got to disclose this, you see. Now, he went to Ukraine, and the word is that, they're opening up these Biden bank accounts out there. The big guy gets his 10%, and they get the other 90%. Here's the point. We're not going to be able to fight our woes or out of our troubles with this Republican Party. And let me tell you why. Because the answer is you're going to have to talk to God. That's all there is to it. And you know why I say that? Because he's going to provide discernment, wisdom, and understanding. Something a lot of voters lack. Because I have no other reason other than you keep voting for the same morons. And you keep getting the same results. And then you keep wondering. Yeah. She said, isn't that insanity? I'm like, it is. All right. I gotta calm down. It's late. And but that's the point here. The Jewish people have suffered a tragedy, and they have a right to defend themselves, but we already have Republicans looking to expand this into Iran, into different parts of the world. And I show you, this is why the Chechen Republican leader here, he's popping in saying, we're going to be on the Hamas side. Well, when you pull out your swords and you go global with it, what do you expect? And guess what that is? That's not level, cool heads on the Republican Party side. I mean, you've got literally Lindsey Graham, who I hate to say is a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel, just like me, talking about going into Iran. I mean, what the hell is that all about? And here at the state level, right? Or even that's the Senate level up at the federal. Or what about the congressional level? Total silence. And they're up there knife fighting themselves. And the very few, there's about 10 or 12 real patriots who have shown us what has happened to our Congress. Congress is letting Mayorkas, the DHS director, do whatever he wants on this border. And guess what? Republicans are in charge. And you think we're going to win in March? Nobody trusts you. And then you come here to Texas, in Austin, 60 idiots voted for impeaching the strongest attorney general fighting the Biden administration. And for all you do-gooders about the morality of his life or whatever. Give me a break. Just shut up. Everybody who's out there in Austin is doing the hanky panky with somebody else and getting drunk and doing all these nasty things. And you want to throw rocks in glass houses. Give me a break. But you want to impeach the one guy who's taking on the real evildoer, the Biden administration. Well, the target's there. There's 60 of them. And for my local buddies here around, the San Antonio, Medina County area, it's time to clean house. And so don't rely on the Republican Party to solve it. Not with these, not with cats like Tony Gonzalez. I mean, you're gonna lean on. We don't even know where that guy is. Has anybody seen? I'm gonna tell you what. We're gonna challenge anybody who can videotape Tony Gonzalez doing a town hall somewhere. And I'm not talking about a controlled environment where he invites 4 or 5 people who are honored to be with the congressman who have no idea who he really is. Send me a video. Send it to me, or hell, tell me where he's at, because that way I can catch up to him. I'll throw the mic in his face and go, "Hey, do you want to talk now?" I mean, because we're doing a podcast. I'm going to do it, Linda. I'm going to invite Tony Gonzalez to come on to this podcast. Okay. Linda Ruski over here saying it's going to be like the debates, Raul. It's not going to happen. And I'm hearing chicken excrement. I almost said it. Poultry excrement is what she's saying. All right. What's the point here? Is we're going to have to pray. A lot of us are going to have to pray for Israel, for Jerusalem, for peace in Jerusalem. I do that every night, every day. But we're going to have to pray for discernment, for the good Lord to show the people who vote in March who the real culprits are. Because you cannot go fight Democrats or the left in November with the likes of Tony Gonzalez, Andrew Murr, Steve Allison, Dan Crenshaw. These are all popular names because they've been around a while. Well, they managed to smoke you and brain daze you enough that you vote for them anyway. And so the final comment tonight is this. I think we're going to find out. I'll know more after March the 10th. But if people like Dan Crenshaw, Tony Gonzalez, and all these people get past in March, if they are successful with their money, because money does work. Money does work. That's why we counter with prayer. Discernment, wisdom, and understanding is what we need everybody to get a hold of. If you don't know somebody who doesn't, somebody who doesn't understand, explain it to them and tell them to go vote the right way. After March next year, the primary, we're going to know if we're going to lose the House. Because if we have 80% of the incumbents at the Texas legislative body, now let's go to Austin for a second. If they're going into November, they're done in November. The House will go blue for the first time, in my opinion, in 20 plus years. Because guess what? People are realizing if I vote for Ryan Guillen, who was a Democrat who turned Republican, I'm going to get the same thing anyway. You see, none of the priority to safeguard a few things. The border to keep us safe and secure are not happening. That didn't happen. Dave Phelan killed the bill. And taxes. How many of your taxes are going up so high that you actually believe that whatever they did is going to really help you out? My taxes went up. They went up like everybody else's. So whatever they threw on a bill for 100,000 homestead exemptions or whatever, it don't mean squat, because the appraisal district made up for it anyway. And by the way, I've got a date in where I own property. See how I did that? I almost said it. Where I own property to protest it this coming Thursday. You see, and why? Because this is crazy. They're raising our taxes, and guess what? They're making up for the credits they gave you at the Austin legislative body. You see, and what about books in your schools? And what about the vax mandates? We still have that. People can still tell you have to have vaccines to keep your job. I mean, all these are things that would make Texas free, but our legislative body didn't do that. So when you see them in November, because we weren't able to successfully remove them in the primaries, I predict that Texas goes blue, at least in the House. In the House, and in Congress, for as bad as Joe Biden and the Democrats are, if I see Tony Gonzalez in November, I'm not going to vote for that guy. And I know hundreds and thousands of people that are not going to vote for that guy. And the days of telling me to keep it red are out the door, because in the primaries is when you really want to keep it red. Okay. So I encourage a lot of folks, you've got to start running. You got to start doing things. I mean, here you have my good friend, Frank Lopez, here out there showing you that Tony Gonzalez had an office in the Endeavors facilities. The question for me is, are you the voter going to go vote for Tony Gonzalez? What about the Republican women's group that supported him in San Antonio? I'm specifically, I think it's Alamo Republican women's group. Miss Frida Wright, are you gonna still support this censured Republican? Because you ought to lose your credentials as a Republican women's group if that's the case. Or better yet, people aren't going to believe you're a Republican anyway. But you get a chance. And that's what I'm asking. I'm not throwing down with her. What I'm asking is, do the right thing and stop supporting the rhino. Actually, he's a Democrat, a LULAC Democrat. We told you that before. I'm not upset. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate that guy, but I am here to tell you the truth. And the truth is, he's not a Republican. He's not a Republican. And you want to solve the problems in Texas, and you want to problem solve it in DC, and you want to solve the problems across the world with people like that, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You don't have to like me. You just have to understand that what I'm telling you is true. You're not going to solve it with these people in the Republican Party. It's just not going to happen. And so I'll wrap it up with this. What's the solution? We better turn back to God. You need to start asking for wisdom, discernment, and understanding, not just for yourself, but for the people that vote in March, that God hit them with a lightning bolt, Linda, that says, that's not the guy anymore. Do you understand? These people right here who don't have enough money, who have a good heart, who are constitutionalists, who believe in the Bible and know what's good for the country, who you make unworthy of because they don't highfalutin with their fingers drinking their champagnes up in ritzy places like Dallas, Houston, or San Antonio, that maybe are too different in the way they look. Those are the best people right there. They're the salt of the earth. That's who we need back at the state legislative body. We need up in Congress, and even all the way up to the presidential levels, because that's God sending us the right people to solve our problems. Because without the good Lord, it's just not going to happen. So with that, I have 1,000 things I want to say, and maybe we'll make this a 2-hour show next time, because I can get on a rampage here. With all that said, God bless you. Everybody have a wonderful night. It's getting cool out there. It's getting cool. Really nice and cool. And so everybody stay happy. Happy warriors. Keep telling the truth. Keep informing people. Don't take anything personal. None of this is personal. Contrary to what most people think, I don't hate Tony Gonzalez. It's not personal, but we're not. It's politics. We have to tell the truth. And I have questions. When are we going to start supporting these people? Because if you don't stop doing that, people like me and anybody else I know, they're not going to listen. And then we're in real big trouble, because the left really does stick together. We're only going to stick together if we go and bond around one thing. God. That's it. Because the left is godless right now. It really is. So if you want to go fight the left, you better get good with God and pray for those people that are going to vote in March, that they have discernment, wisdom, and understanding, because that's how we're going to roll. Because the Republican planks, they really are Christian. That's the only reason I even call myself a Republican, because I've looked at both planks. Democrats are not. Abortion is not where it's at. Open borders is not where it's at. So with all that said, before I ramp up again, everybody have a good night. Stay cool. pray for more rain and catch us here next Tuesday, and or if we get some, we might get some surprise visitors. We're doing our best. No, no, this is not a certainty. We have invited General Flynn. I hope he can come on here in the next month or two. His schedule's way out there. We're going to have a few other folks that we're going to try to get Ken Paxton out here. We know him, but he's super busy. But we're going to see if we can't get him on here for a show as well. And we might get Pedro Gonzalez back on here. He was here, 6-7 months ago. Guy's got a lot to say about Trump, and and we want to hear it. We just want to hear the unbiased, what somebody else's truth. If you want to come on the show because you're a bona fide, have something to say, let's do it on Sunday. On Sunday, we may do Pastor Sunday, and I think we may be starting with our pastor. So if he's listening and he's got the thumbs up, just give me a call tomorrow. We want to set it up, and we want to talk all things God, nation, people, and just have a good time with that while we inform people about the gospel and all the things that happen. So, okay, enough. I'm rolling on and on. My wife is saying, that's it. Shut up. Okay, so we're going to go get to the house, get some sleep. You guys have a wonderful day tomorrow. God bless you and God bless America.